You do not drape the flag like that." The words sliced the quiet like a scalpel, clean, deliberate, final. First Baptist Church of Midwood, North Carolina. The kind of place where the pews are wooden and the air smells like polished oak and sorrow. The sanctuary, filled with soft murmurs and stiff collars, held a kind of hush usually reserved for prayer or regret. Outside, in a worn-down Ford parked by the side entrance, Sergeant Michael Little sat motionless. The keys dangled in the ignition, the engine long since off. He held his phone in his hand, the screen open to a single message. "Hey, Mike, long time. Guess what? I'm in Kandahar. Crazy, right? Hit me back if you get this." Jared's name blinked at the top of the message thread like a heartbeat that had stopped mid-beat. Little had stared at it for nearly 15 minutes. The phone screen dimmed. He didn't wake it again. He stepped out of the truck, adjusted his uniform, and walked toward the doors. Sergeant Michael Little stood near the back doors of the sanctuary now, his dress blues sharp against the muted tones of Sunday suits and black veils. His white gloves were already on, his jaw locked. But it was not grief that tensed his shoulders, it was restraint. At the front of the sanctuary, two assistants, under the direction of local funeral manager Wade Cosgrove, fumbled with the flag. It drooped. It touched the casket wrong, folded unevenly. To most it was a technical error, a wrinkle to be smoothed before the family arrived. To Sergeant Little it was a desecration. And the man in that casket was not just another Marine. It was Jared Carson, Little's childhood best friend, his backyard co-pilot, the kid who once built a wooden sword and knighted him in his father's tool shed. They had not spoken in almost 9 years. And now, here they were. "Back away from the casket," Little said, his voice even but loud enough to silence every murmur. "That flag is not decoration, it is earned." Wade Cosgrove turned, irritated and indignant. "Sergeant, I have prepared more military funerals than you have years in uniform," he said, brushing lint from his collar. "Let us do our job." Little stepped forward, each footfall echoing. "Then do it right." Jared and Michael were shadows of each other once. From bike races on dirt roads to treehouse missions, they were a single name in the mouths of teachers and parents, Mike and Jared. In high school, they drifted. No falling out, no betrayal. Just the slow erosion of time. Little enlisted. Jared vanished. One summer, age 13, they dug a trench behind the shed and played war. Jared lay down inside, arms folded. "This is my funeral," he said, voice somber. "You have to salute me, Mike, like real soldiers." Michael had laughed, then saluted with 2 fingers and a blade of grass between his teeth. Jared didn't smile. "Promise you'll carry me home if I don't make it." Michael remembered brushing it off. But now, in this sanctuary, the game was no longer pretend. It was only 6 days ago at the Kroger, off Route 84, that Michael ran into Jared's mother, her eyes tired, her voice subdued. "He's coming home," she had said, then added, almost in passing, "You two were stationed in the same region. Who would have thought?" Michael froze. He had not known. No record, no email, no deployment overlap he could recall. But it was true. And now Jared was in a flag-draped box. He drove home in silence that night. Back at his quarters, he sat for hours at his desk, staring at deployment rosters from years past. There it was. See Jared. Just a line in black ink. 1 base over, 1 patrol apart. His heart sank as he opened a forgotten spam folder. There, time-stamped 9 months ago. "Hey, Mike. Long time. Guess what? I'm in Kandahar. Crazy, right? Hit me back if you get this." Little never saw it. He had been too caught up in mission rotations, in battle rhythm. The guilt bloomed like a bruise. The next day, Jared's parents invited him to the service, quietly, tentatively. His father, a soft-spoken man with trembling hands, asked him to say a few words. if he felt up to it. Michael nodded, but inside he felt unworthy. Later that night he pulled out an old wooden box, tucked beneath his bunk for years. Inside were relics, a toy compass, a matchbox car, and a folded map drawn in crayon. Fort Freedom, it read. Their imaginary hideout. He held it like it was sacred scripture. He remembered one mission: Christmas Eve patrol, freezing wind, and distant gunfire. His unit crossed paths with a squad they did not recognize. One Marine had a patch stitched wrong. Michael remembered thinking, "That guy walks like Jared." It was just a second, then gone. Now he wondered. He scribbled Jared's name into the margins of a pocket notebook he carried. Under it, one word: why? That night, Michael tried to write a eulogy. He started with facts, rank, deployment dates, commendations, but tore it up before the ink dried. Jared wasn't just a list of accomplishments. He was the kid who once refused to shoot a BB gun because a robin's nest was nearby. He was the boy who cried when his dog got hit by a truck and wouldn't let anyone dig the grave but him. Michael remembered all of it, but the words would not come. So he wrote a letter instead, folded it once, slid it into his coat pocket, and swore he would speak from the heart when the time came. Now, here in this quiet church, Little had a promise to fulfill, not one made in words, but one forged in laughter, in scraped knees and late-night promises under summer stars. "You do not fold it like that," Little repeated. "The union goes over the left shoulder. The stripes fall to the foot." Wade scoffed. "You military boys think you own grief. This is a civilian funeral. The church is on our schedule." Little stepped between the assistants and the casket. "It is not about grief. It is about honor." Wade's assistant, Carla, hesitated. She was new, fresh from mortuary school. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked from Cosgrove to Little. "He's right," she whispered. "We were taught that in ceremony modules. You always fold from the left." Cosgrove's jaw clenched. The first mourner entered, then another. The family. Jared's father, cane in hand, eyes hollow. His mother, a pale shade of the woman Michael remembered. Emma, Jared's niece, clutching a photo of a man in uniform. Cosgrove hissed, "You are causing a disruption." Michael replied, "No. I am drawing a line." The flag was corrected, crisp, respectful, sacred. Cosgrove stormed to the back of the sanctuary, dialing numbers. "You are not in charge here, Sergeant." But Little remained silent. In a brief pause, Jared's father approached him. "He never told us much," he said, "but we found his journal. There's a line, says, 'If I don't make it, I hope Mike shows up. He'll know what to do.'" Michael felt something break and heal in the same breath. He remembered a night in Afghanistan, a skirmish near Sangin. They had taken fire from a hillside. One squad went dark. They later found out that Jared's unit had been there, held the ridge, held the line. He never knew, never connected the names. But the report spoke of bravery, of casualties, of someone dragging 2 injured men to cover under heavy fire. Jared's name was never mentioned directly, but Michael now believed it. The funeral continued, hushed and reverent. As Michael returned to his seat after speaking, a few heads turned toward him, quiet nods of respect from men in uniform, from church elders, from a woman dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Jared's father gripped his cane tighter and gave a short, stiff nod, the kind that says everything and nothing. Emma, the young niece, looked up at him with something like awe, her eyes wide and glistening. Even Wade Cosgrove, standing in the shadowed vestibule, seemed to hesitate, his arms crossed, face unreadable, but unmoving. In that moment, the divide between protocol and principle blurred, and Michael's presence had redrawn the line. When it came time to speak, Michael stood from the second pew and walked slowly to the podium. No notes, just the letter in his pocket. He unfolded it carefully, but did not read. Instead, he looked at Jared's mother, then the casket. "I almost missed this," he said. "Missed the chance to stand for someone who always stood for me." Jared was the kind of man who made the world quieter just by listening, who made people better just by showing up. He never asked for recognition, but he damn well earned it. A pause. "He asked me once, in a backyard war with plastic rifles, to promise I'd bring him home if he didn't make it. I laughed, but I remembered." Michael's voice cracked once, then steadied. "So here we are, one last mission, promise kept." He placed the letter gently atop the casket. As he stepped back, his eyes caught Emma, Jared's niece, leaning slightly into her mother. Her tiny hand rose in a hesitant wave directed at the flag. It was not play acting, it was reverence in miniature. Her mother whispered something to her, and she nodded solemnly. Michael exhaled, his breath slow and shaky. He stood still, absorbing the moment, then executed a crisp salute. Around him there was no sound, only the stillness of respect carved into wood and air. Outside, after the final salute, Michael walked alone, not toward his car, but down the winding road behind the church, into a patch of woods now overgrown. It took 20 minutes to find it, the remains of their treehouse. Just the boards now, a few nails, but the tree still stood. He pulled out the old Fort Freedom map, laminated now, creased from years of keeping. He nailed it to the tree with his pocket knife, and whispered, "All clear, Captain?" Then he stood a while longer, breathing the pine-sweet air, listening to the wind. Somewhere in the rustling leaves, he swore he heard the echo of childhood laughter, the sound of two boys shouting, "Hold the fort," as twilight crept over the yard, the creak of rope swings, the thud of bare feet in dirt. For a moment it was all there again. Jared's crooked grin, the ridiculous handshake they invented, the oath they made, sealed in mud and mischief. Michael closed his eyes. Not to forget, but to remember longer. Finally he turned back toward the light, but before he reached the road, he paused near his truck. The late afternoon sun painted the windshield gold. Michael sat in the cab for a long time, engine off, hands on the wheel. He opened Jared's last message again. This time he typed something back. "Got it. Mission complete. Rest easy, brother." He did not hit send. He simply stared at the words, then let the phone fall gently into the console tray. Some messages are not for replies, just release. Some flags cover more than caskets. They cover memories, promises, legacies. If this story stirred something in you, if you have ever stood for someone who could no longer stand for themselves, we invite you to join the honor roll. And if you believe that traditions still matter, that respect still matters, then share this story, because someone out there needs to remember. Fictionalized for emotional effect, based on real traditions, real brotherhoods, and real sacrifices. Names and details have been altered.